Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dukes of Gaming. I'm your host for tonight, Ben, the Duke of Design. I'm a senior narrative designer at Cloud Chamber working on Bioshock 4. Do not ask me about Bioshock. I would have to kill you if I told you anything. And my opinions are my own here on this wonderful show today. We are a day late in our recording, but we're not $1 short. Cole, the Duke of Rocket League, you're going to win the Powerball, right? It's happening.
Yeah. If I win the
Powerball
Powerball,
is happening.
I forgot. We're all moving to Atlanta. Clams, Ben, y'all are joining me in Alfredo, Atlanta, and
Okay.
I'm buying us a $20 million studio.
Excellent.
The
That's
Cole
just a fraction
Cole
of my
compound.
Powerball.
The Cole compound.
Yeah,
Right.
the Cole compound.
Wow, what a name.
And
The
once
Cole
we're all in Cole's thrall, this is very quickly going to turn into what's that? My wife's been watching the Nexium documentary on HBO Max called The Vow. It's all going to turn into that real quick, or we're all going to be signing over our rights to Cole, and it's it's all going down from there.
Every day we talk about Rocket League.
Good.
That's it.
He's got that
God.
cult leader. He's got that cult leader charm. He's got
That's
the cult
right.
leader charm.
It's true.
Oh, Lord.
The Duke of Cults. So how you doing, Cole? Aside from winning the Powerball,
Good. I'm excited for Sonic Frontiers. What a big week in video gaming.
God.
Sonic
You
Frontiers
just had to ruin
coming
it.
out. What? There's no other games coming out this week besides Sonic Frontiers. I can't wait.
it's the only game.
Game of
It's
the
the
year.
only game.
No, honestly, I'm going to pick up both. I'm excited about that, and I'm excited about Goat Simulator, and which is next week. And God of War, honestly, is third place. I'm serious. Like, I'm dead
Wow.
serious. Out of those three games, God of War is third place for me. I'm not even being funny.
Wow.
Like, because I played
Wow.
it already. I played it in 2018, and it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be great, but it's going to feel like exaggerated DLC, I feel like.
We'll see. We'll see.
Speaking of passing on
Good
a
thing.
great game for a mediocre game, Taylor, I heard that you're going to be playing Sonic this
playing
week too.
Sonic Frontiers, baby.
Oh, yeah.
First of
How-
all, hey, Clams.
Hello, how's
Clams,
it
you haven't been. It's the return of Clams.
I haven't
Welcome
been
back.
here for a
Welcome
while.
back.
Well, thank you. I'm glad I'm back. I'll have a webcam one day soon. So, but
Looking great in portrait.
before that, I have to buy Sonic Frontiers. So, I got to allocate my funds appropriately.
Right.
Sonic. It's Sonic.
It's Sonic.
Sonic couldn't be bad. So it's a sure bet. It's a
I
sure
mean-
bet.
Reviews are
Sonic
out.
has never been bad, in fact.
Never.
What do you think about that, Alfredo, the Duke of Education?
I'm having a hard time thought processing because I'm actually purchasing Powerball tickets right now as well. But I think that
Wait,
sounds
you can purchase those online?
cool. Of course you can. Well, no,
You're going to
It's
compete
the
against
future.
Cole?
Oh, I'm not
Yeah,
going
you're
to
competing against me.
It's just throwing my hat in
It's
the
going to
ring.
be the Fredo
as well.
pound.
And I didn't claim I was going to share anything. I'm just going to be Scrooge McDucking. I need
Oh, no.
all those extra money in the pennies, so I had to evolve all of that. It's all going to be mine. And I just bought it online, so we'll see.
Well,
We'll see if I'm here tomorrow.
Our chances just doubled. They went from 0.0000001 to 0.0000002. So great.
I don't
Awesome.
think it even did,
Well,
honestly.
yeah, not even that.
Yeah.
1/trillionth of that. But this is how it is. This is a video game podcast, though. We gather every week to discuss the latest goings on in video games, all the news that is fit to talk about, I guess. Although not really. It's just the stuff we want to talk about and the way that we want to talk about it. But today we've got some interesting stories, including something that I have long been awaiting. That, of course, we're going to be discussing in great depth. But first, we got to address the age-old gamer question of what the heck is everybody playing this week? Clams, since it's been so long.
Who was
It's been
that?
so long, Clams. How about
What
you?
have I been playing? Well, I have been playing Bayonetta 1, first one, because I've never thought about playing a Bayonetta. Not really crossed my mind. I know they're iconic. They're cool games. People love them or hate them. And frankly, the voice actress who didn't come back for Game 3, her little whine piece to the internet actually made me want to buy Bayonetta 3 to see what it was all about. So, so I pulled out Bayonetta 1, and I'm going to sneeze. Yeah.
Bless you.
bless you.
Thank you. So yeah, it's a wild game. I see why people like it. It's maybe not my favorite game in the world. I see why people like it though. It's really unique. I've never played anything like it. Mechanically, I have, but like story wise, character wise, just like lore wise, it's so unabashedly what it wants to be, and that's kind of cool. I give it
Yeah.
lots of respect for that. So
What are
How
you playing
far
it
are
on?
you in?
I am playing it on the Switch actually.
Do you
Since
recommend
that's-
it?
if you like religion and BDSM,
What?
then yeah, it's probably for you. It's probably for you.
Man, I gotta go buy a
All
copy.
right, that's that
So-
cross section. I wonder, it's quite a market
Wait,
Nintendo has carved
Wait,
out there.
I have so many questions. Okay, not so many, but how
Okay.
far are you in?
I'm basically all the way done with the first game.
Oh, okay.
I might skim the second game, even though I hear it's better. Like the second game is apparently better mechanically than the first one.
But you want to get to
So-
3.
I really want to get to 3, but now I've already got Sonic on my tail, and I just
Sonic on my tail.
Okay.
I got
Sonic on my
Tail,
tails.
Sonic.
More like
So I might end up playing Sonic before I finish 2 and get around to 3. I'll buy myself 3 for Christmas or something like that. Because she made me want to buy it with her little crying fit on Twitter, but not
So
like
sad
not
it
like
backfired.
that much. Not that much.
right. Yeah. Not for Nintendo
So-
prices. You kidding me?
That's never going down.
In this economy?
One day. Play the Powerball, then it won't be a problem.
Yeah.
You-
Let's.
Hon-
yeah.
Honestly, I think Nintendo, because when they announced Nintendo was buying Bayonetta to put exclusively on the Switch, I was shocked because I had seen Bayonetta. I her body, and I was like,
Wait, what?
"Come on, you've seen her body."
I mean, it is. Isn't her hair her clothes? Isn't
yes,
that like
yeah,
the
yeah,
thing
yeah,
in the game?
Her
Okay.
her hair is her clothes. But I'm like, it seemed like a weird thing for Nintendo to want to put exclusively on their consoles.
Yeah.
But actually, the way, because those games were made on a super tight budget, like a super tight budget, so they artistically cut corners in ways that work really well and kind of give it a style. They stylized the game so they could make it a little cheaper, and that works really well on Nintendo systems. That, like, you got to cut corners where you can, and if you're gonna do it, you got to do it with a purpose, and they did it with a purpose, and so it makes sense for Nintendo now because they can make a quick, cheap game that people love, and it doesn't push the hardware too far. So, yeah, I recommend it.
Dang,
One,
I need to
awesome.
play it. I have it actually on Steam, but never got around to playing it because of the huge Steam backlog. Sirens
Sure.
on our end.
Yeah, there's a
But
fire.
yeah, I'll get to it one of these days.
Cool.
Alfredo, what are you getting to right now?
I am getting to 2 games right now, actually. So I'm getting to the first game I want to talk about is one called Signalis. So I don't know if you guys have heard of this game, but it's like a faint. I'm just gonna. There you go. Yeah, I've been playing this game called Signalis. So this game came out for Halloween. It's an Xbox Game Pass game, but it was highlighted during E3 as kind of like a Resident Evil, a return to like Resident Evil, like old school Resident Evil, where you had classic fixed cameras. You have like your navigating in a 2D or a 3D manner, but like with tankish kind of controls. You got inventory management. There are.
Sorry,
There
I'm pulling
are-
up gameplay of.
Bedlam.
I'm pulling
Absolute
up
bedlam
gameplay of
tonight.
Signalis.
There are inventory management, just classic Resident Evil. Picture that basically, but in a
Yeah.
more modern setting. But yeah, there's basically zombies, all of that. It's just Resident Evil. So I wanted to play it because Halloween fever. So I and also I've never played a traditional Resident Evil game. I've only played the newer ones, which is like Resident Evil 4 and up, where it's all actiony and whatever. So I started playing this game, and I started playing it like 2 weeks ago. wasn't really for me. I couldn't really get into it. I think I only played about 30 minutes. And something about I don't know, environment wasn't grabbing me. So I had put it down. And then I decided to pick it up today, actually. And I played like 3 hours and I kind of fell in love with what I was playing. So the more I played it, the more I got more into what this game had to offer. And I'm someone who really, really enjoys survival mechanics, basically. And after playing this game, I feel like games like Last of Us, modern Resident Evil, where they all say, you have limited ammo, all of that. I feel like I've been spoiled now because this game really does like put the stress on in terms of inventory management and just the classic like PS1 feeling of like, oh my god, like I'm fighting the controls, but it's not fighting the controls so bad that like you don't want to play. It's kind of in a good way. It's hard to explain, honestly. The controls are there where like, oh, like I need to open this door, but like you have to stand very still in order to open the door while the monster is literally chasing you or coming at you very, very slowly. But it leads to some pretty fun moments. I would definitely say the highlights of this game are for sure the inventory management because they do it very well. The puzzles are really, really good. It has me thinking that I'm a genius, even though the puzzles aren't really that hard. But I like a game that makes me feel smart. This game does that for me. It has a perfect blend of the puzzles aren't too hard and they're not too easy either. They're like a good middle ground. So I feel like this game really nails the map and having you backtrack and try to figure out, okay, I need this specific item from this specific room. Like in true Resident Evil fashion, I need to take this inventory item that I got, this part like of a socket, and combine it with a wrench that I find like 7 doors down or whatever. And then I'll be able to figure out how to open this vent and do this. And then I could do this. Like the feeling of being rewarded for figuring out one piece of the puzzle and then that leading you to, oh, now I can do this or do this. Like basically like a domino effect. Like they get it so right where you're like, okay, I know I have to do this one thing. And then everything kind of falls in line, even though you might not exactly know, oh, I have to do this in order to have this end goal, but everything just kind of fits into place like a perfect puzzle. And I feel like I haven't really played a game that has done that for me before, where everything just feels right. So yeah, puzzles, they absolutely nail it. Atmosphere is awesome, pretty cool. It's not exactly a zombie game. It's more like these creatures like shamble around. They can reanimate. They're basically our zombies. But again, it all comes back to the inventory management. Basically, if you can always defeat the zombie, but if you don't burn them with like a very limited item resource, like with the flare, basically, they'll rise up and come back eventually. Like it might not be like in a minute, it might be like 10 doors down. When you come back and retrace the room, they might come back up. But yeah, really, really, really enjoying this game. Boss battles aren't that great so far. I've only had one boss battle. It definitely brought me back to, okay, this is definitely PS1 type boss battle where you're just running around the room, just trying not to get hit. But I feel like it's that good sense of nostalgia. I like it. Good game. And I'm definitely, I'll have thoughts on it more when I finish it, but about 4 or 5 hours in right now, I think. So I'll have more thoughts on it.
Yeah, it's really interesting what you said about like kind of recapturing that old school feeling of the bit of jank in there. And I feel like we've talked about this before about like how nothing is really scarier than that Resident Evil original zombie like looking over its shoulder, back at you, and it's like so janky, but that's part of what makes it horrifying is because it's not photorealistic, right? It's
Exactly.
not a photorealistic rendering of a zombie, and so there's something truly off there that heightens the horror rather than diminishing it, and fighting against the game to a degree is like it begins to contribute to that experience in a way, as long as you can look past the difficulty of it. So finding something that is tightly designed in one way, right? Like you're saying, everything just feels right, but then is also pulling on those strings of jank gone by. That's really interesting. That's a pretty cool pitch.
Yeah, honestly, and I thought I was like, oh, I got this down pat. I have my inventory management all set.
Yeah.
I'm conserving ammos. I'm doing well. I was flying by this game, solving puzzles, and then I got to a new area of this like decrepit hospital. Basically, is what you're in, and the game started kicking my ass. Suddenly, it started dropping floors on me. I can't find a save room. I can't pick up like key items anymore. I'm running from monsters. I'm running out of ammo.
Yeah.
And I like it. It brings you back to the days. It captures the nostalgia of those days perfectly in PS1 where they did it, and it did it right in a way that like it's not frustrating, which I really
Yeah.
appreciate. It's just fun. They perfectly captured the modernness into it. But yeah, would recommend so far. I'll have more thoughts on it next week. But I also want to talk about another game that I've been playing. So I've been telling Thomas, and I think I told the rest of you guys that. Well, you guys know that I love to replay games
Mhm.
for sequels that come out. So basically, if a sequel for a game is coming out before it comes out, like 2 weeks before, I'm gonna play the original. So I've been playing God of War 2018, trying to basically get ready for Ragnarok, just so I can better compare what exactly they changed when the sequel comes out, what exactly was there, how, just be able to better compare everything, basically. So I will say, when I played this game back in 2018, because that was the last time I played it, I thought this game was a masterpiece. I was like, this game is amazing from
Yeah, it
story to
was.
gameplay, everything. Loved it. Replaying it is definitely a different experience because I definitely feel like this game now, this game is a really good anime game. And I say that because
Of course
it
you would say that.
Yep.
it's hard
Had
to
to be you.
describe. This game is a great anime game because I feel like there's a lot in it that like the fighting is great, the story is great, everything about it is great, but replaying it now with the knowledge of games like The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2, a game that I just played, A Plague's Tale Requiem, which I loved about the story and had a very grounded story despite, the controlling rats kind of deal. Much more grounded than this. This story is all about, gods, basically superhero fights everywhere you turn, everything like that. You're just basically One Punch Man essentially, and you're going Super Saiyan all the time. You can
Okay,
take a
yeah,
million
yeah.
hits and you won't go down.
Right.
Basically, same
Yeah.
for the enemies. So you're
Yeah, I mean, like the
superhero.
opening fight with the stranger is definitely a Dragon Ball Z fight.
Exactly.
You're right about
Exactly,
that.
and so is the end fight.
Yeah.
So this is really, really great anime games. And while I was playing it, I was like, this game really isn't as great as I thought. And it wasn't until I started winding down to the end of the game, where things really come to a climax and you start finishing things, that I saw the puzzle pieces start coming together. Where okay, the story is finally like intriguing me to the point where okay, there are pebbles lying around and breadcrumbs that are finally being reconciled, basically, and it's good. I wouldn't say it's great or anything, but it's good. Revisiting everything with the knowledge that I've had through all of these other games in the past 4 years, I can definitely say that this is a solid game. This is a good game, a great game, even. But I don't think personally I would say this is a masterpiece anymore because there's some stuff with the combat, for example, that I wish they would have did a little bit more. In terms of variety, in terms of differentiation, that I think is missing personally. There's a lot of stuff in the story that I think that could be tightened up a bit. There was a lot of little things that added up to me being like, okay, I don't think this game is as good as what I thought it would be. That said, I am excited for Ragnarok because of there were a lot of things that I forgot during the ending, and specifically how they sculpted the ending in particular made it set it up to be for Ragnarok to be a good sequel, a great sequel. So I'm hoping now with the knowledge of what they had in the past, I'm hoping that they could just take off, succeed in the future. Also, I completely forgot there was a shield in this game. I didn't know. I forgot there was a parry mechanic. No idea that Kratos had a shield. I completely forgot that. So, yeah, just a lot of reminding for me while playing this game. But yeah, good game. Good game. Excited for the next one.
Excellent. The Duke of Rocket League. What have you been playing?
I haven't been playing too much, but I did play a game with my kids. Total Reliable Delivery Service. And the reason I chose this game is because it was, I think I had it on PS Plus. Sometimes I'll just toggle through my PS Plus games and see what's appropriate for them that I just downloaded. And as they age into, different kinds of games, it's kind of cool going through that list and seeing like what they can play. So they've been playing Goat Simulator. I've been telling y'all my journey on that, and they love it. So I was trying to find something similar, like where they can explore an open world on split screen, which there's not that much. I don't know if y'all can think of anything. Let me know. But like the Mario games,
or what's that game? It Takes Two. That'd be a good one.
Yeah, but that's more level based. They like exploring a world. Like that's one of the reasons they like the Goat Simulator game is because they can just. It's very simple. They can just control and find different areas and show each other. But so the problem is with this game is that it's got the open world and it reminds me of Pilot Wings. Did y'all ever play the Pilot Wings game?
Yeah.
On the Nintendo 64 kind of. It's got that cute like islandy feel, cartoony graphics, really bright. But the problem is it's a good formula for them. But so the game is like Fall Flat and Gang Beast, where you control the different hands. So to grab onto, like, even to drive a car, you have to use L2 to grab the left side of the forklift or whatever, and R2 to grab this, and you have to steer it like this. And they just can't do those mechanics.
It's hard for little hands too.
It's too complicated, guy.
Yeah. And then to grab a box, they have to grab it with both hands. They've just learned how to like hit square and grab something in another game. Now they gotta. It's very obtuse, but that's the point of the game, though. Like whenever if you play, like if we all played it together, I feel like it would be funny because that's kind of what makes it funny is how crazy.
Slapstick.
Yeah. And just how absurd it is. Like loading a box onto a forklift is just so absurd and hard. So it is pretty cool, but it just doesn't work. It doesn't work for them. Like not being able to drive the vehicles and stuff kind of sucks. But that's why I'm looking forward to Goat Simulator. But we tried it. And gave it up and deleted it.
No,
bummer.
Yeah.
It's funny. These like intentionally difficult to control games that are intended for kind of slapstick comedy. I feel like they all. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like they all kind of descend from QWOP. Do you guys remember QWOP?
Yeah.
What is QWOP?
QWOP is a flash game, about a racer, and you independently control the feet and the shins and the top of the legs with Q, W, and O and P on the keyboard. That's why it's QWOP, Q, W, O, P.
Oh,
so like Q and W would be like the left quad and then the bottom of the leg. So like top leg, bottom of the leg.
Yeah,
those two buttons. And then OP are like the top and bottom of the right leg. And then you have to try to get this guy to run as far as he can, and it's just absolutely absurd every time.
It sounds like that squid guy.
Yeah, Octodad.
Yeah. That's another one. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one that just came out that looks very similar. That's called Heavenly Bodies, where you play. It can be multiplayer or single player, where you're a cosmonaut you're working on a space station, and you can only locomote by grabbing things and like pulling off of them, and to like get yourself floating around. That one's also free on PS Plus right now. I'm not sure if it's appropriate or not, Cole, but that might be another one. Well, it's probably gonna be hard for them to play, but we'll
got
see.
that same problem. Yeah,
exactly right.
Just a fun fact, and probably not a great game for them to play, but the guy who made QWOP, and I was trying to remember, he made a game recently that got quite popular. It was called Getting Over It.
Right.
He made that?
Guy who made QWOP went on to make Getting Over It recently, and it's a fun game. It's a frustrating game, but it's
another
game.
intentionally frustrating game. Yeah. Definitely. But
Started
incredible to
out
watch
with hard
speedrunners do it.
Jeez. Yeah, I could never. I would just throw my controller.
Yeah, it's very frustrating, especially when they're getting mad and not being able to play. And
Yeah,
not
definitely.
fun.
Yeah, totally reliable delivery service is not reliable entertainment for your kids. In other words, cool. Well, I'm playing the same thing I was playing last week, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, a minted certified classic. I finished the game yesterday. It was funny. Like I was like 10 minutes, like literally 10 minutes from the ending, and then my power went out, and it was out for 36 hours over the weekend.
What?
So yeah, I had a fun weekend.
That's crazy.
But I finally got back to it, squeaked out the last 10 minutes of Symphony of the Night, and it's really, really, it's just a fantastic game. There's very little else I can say about it, except that I wish this wasn't considered the greatest game in the series, because I want more like it. I want more Castlevania at this point, but I don't want to be disappointed, and I know that the series is pretty hit or miss. So I think I'll put it down for a little while, and then maybe go back to something like it, like Hollow Knight, that I know is good. But yeah,
you're playing Moonscars.
Moonscars. Yeah. You talked about that one,
yeah. It's a great game.
There's a lot of good Metroidvanias out there. So I'll have a feast to dig into, but yeah, that's Symphony of the Night. I don't know, Clams, have you ever played Symphony of the Night before?
I've not, no.
Oh, I highly recommend it. It's a classic for a reason. Really good stuff. So yeah, that's me this week. Let's get into the news, gentlemen. There's a certain bit of hardware that I've been talking about for over a year now. You guys keep asking me, why won't you get an Oculus Quest 2? Why won't you get an Oculus Quest 2? Aren't you a VR guy? Weren't you a VR developer? You get the Oculus Quest 2. And I say, well, it's not the Meta Quest 2. I'm sorry. And I keep saying I'm holding out. I'm holding out for the PSVR 2. And now we finally have the release date and the price announced. PSVR 2 will launch on February 22nd, 2023. A little bit closer than I was expecting. I was expecting Q1 next year. There were some indications for that, but I was expecting around March, and so end of February is an interesting window. And then the price is $549.99 US. So let's talk about it. What are you guys thinking about, particularly the price? I mean, I think this is the thing that's been on most people's minds. What do you think?
I think it's bad. And, I've been against the PSVR from the beginning. Like, Ben, you're pro PSVR too. Yeah, I've been kind of anti PSVR too, just because I feel like I don't like the direction they're going. I would love for it to be a standalone device, a PlayStation standalone device to compete with Oculus Quest. But this price, the first one launched at $399 and $499, right?
Yeah, but when it was $499 because $399 didn't have the controllers, didn't have the camera.
Yeah, so $499.
This comes with everything. So
$499. So and this one's what?
$549.
$550.
So
yeah.
$50 more.
Honestly, when you think about it like that, it's not that bad. But for whatever reason, that $549 sounds a lot worse than $499.
Well, I mean, it is more than the console itself.
I think that's the biggest sticking point.
Yeah. I don't know. This is I just don't have a good feeling about PSVR 2. I don't think it's going to do well.
So Cole, are you still in need of a VR headset? You said that
I am,
lost,
and honestly,
during your move.
It lost or stolen. I don't know what happened to it. I don't know. It's gone. So, and even with this news, I'm still thinking about just getting it. I think I'd rather have a Quest. I think I'd rather have a Quest. Yeah, I don't want and the Quest is what, $499 now? They upped the price $100 to $399. It's $400.
$399. Yep.
I would rather have a Quest. Like I don't have any interest in this unless the Horizon game looks like it's probably going to be one of those it reminds me of Robinson the Journey, like some kind of on rails game. It's just what I'm thinking. I mean, who knows? It could be great, but I have a feeling it's going to be like I read a preview of it. And it seemed like a similar on rails experience. You have like a bow and arrow section, and then you go on to like the Immortal Vader game, like just these different sections. That's just a bummer. I don't know.
My thought is actually, and this is like the price, $550 is high, but the fact that Meta went up $100 and is not worth that extra $100 in my opinion. Kind of makes it completely that it doesn't deserve to exist anymore. Like, it should not have gone up in price. When it went down in price, I was like, wow, that's smart, because it doesn't. It was what $350 to begin with, went down to $300. Now it's $400.
Yep.
Like, it's not worth $400. It's
Oh
cool.
man, the Quest.
No,
The Quest is worth, honestly, dude. I feel like that is so much technology for the price. It was the Quest 2 launched at $299,
sure,
and
but
I
now
feel like it's worth. I feel like it's worth $699.
Really?
I think-
It's very impressive.
I think the PlayStation VR 2 is worth $600. I'm not going to spend that much on VR, honestly, but the Quest isn't even going to come, like, tech wise. Quest doesn't scratch the surface of what the PSVR 2 is going to do. Like that, they put some serious.
See, I think you're
Serious
just speaking
juice in there.
the graphical power. Like the Quest
Well,
is
that's-
so
isn't that
compelling
really all-
because it's no. The Quest is so compelling because it's freedom of movement, and you can take it anywhere, standalone.
Sure, that's impressive, but at the same time, that makes it feel a little bit kind of like a really fancy Google Cardboard to me. Like I've never gotten
Yeah.
never got a gaming experience out of it. As much as I tried, like, it never felt like a gaming system to me. It felt like a cool thing. It
Do you
felt
still
cool.
have your Quest?
I still have my Quest. I rarely use it, but for the first couple months after I bought it, I tried using it frequently. But I never felt like I was gaming.
Did you
Uh,
play
you
Super
ever
Hot or
have,
Beat Saber? Or
I
Yeah.
played Super Hot. I played Beat Saber. They again, but I liked them both on that system. Super Hot was probably like the most fun I had, because Beat Saber was just a workout thing. Honestly, it was just a cool workout game. But I still think I'd prefer to play Super Hot on PC or Switch or PlayStation. Like,
Without
I'm-
the price
I'm-
point of
yeah.
the additional one.
Yeah, I don't. It's neat. It's neat. It's like going to a carnival. It's cool because you couldn't do it at home. You know.
Yeah. I definitely lean in with Clams here, and I'm not so much against the price point of $549. I think that's fine, but what gets me about this is that they set it up. PlayStation seems to have set up PSVR to me too in a way that they don't really believe that much in it. And what makes me think that, first and foremost, is the fact that how they announced this in the first place. We didn't get a big press conference like we did for
Right.
PSVR 1. This was a blog post. They
Right.
said, hey, everyone, the moment you all been waiting for, the price and the games, and 11 games, here it all is for you. They could have easily had a press conference for this, and they didn't. And once you look at the actual blog post and what they showed, it makes sense kind of why they didn't. Nothing in it, like Clam said, is giving me like, oh, this is games. This is a game machine. This is the next VR thing that I need to get because it has X, Y, and Z games. It doesn't really have that, honestly. The games, like, they already announced that they have Call of the Wild, I think. Yeah.
Mountain. Call the
Call
Mountain.
of the Mountain. They have Call of the Mountain for PSVR 2.
God.
They got that. And then they have a bunch of games that were already announced and have been out for things like the Meta Quest 2 and a lot of different things. So they don't really have a game that's like you have to have. And I kind of feel like half of it is a missed opportunity because I feel like they could have gotten eyes on these games instead of expecting people, oh, go to the blog and then watch the different videos. They could have had more eyes on the game to at least get people to see, do I really want this game? Is it worth it? The videos aren't that impressive, so maybe that's why they didn't do it in the first place. But
Look,
I don't know.
talked
I
about.
feel like
we
they don't
talked
believe
about,
in it.
We talked about this in the beginning, and like, to me, the killer like version of the PSVR would be the same thing the Quest does, except it would just be so much more seamless. If you could play versions of the game like Quest comparable versions of the game wireless, and you could also plug it into your PSVR for upped resolution, for more processing power. Maybe the Horizon game is only a tethered game, but then you could unplug it and you could play untethered just like Oculus. Then that would be like, I'd be all in. I'd be so excited about that.
Basically, like a Switch version of VR is what you're saying.
Exactly. That'd be incredible.
That could be
cool.
cool.
I feel like this just takes a step back for VR. VR needs to be free of cords. I'm really
I mean we've disagreed about this in the past, where I think there's only so much you can do without having
Untethered.
some sort of sort of processing that you don't have to carry on your head with you. And the argument could be that it's still using the PS5 for processing, but it has a wireless connection to the console. I'm not sure. I think the reason that they probably didn't go that route is because that would raise the prices of the hardware even more, and the price of the hardware is already an unpalatable $550, $50 more than the price of the console. Right. So I think the cord is a cost saving measure, so that the headset doesn't have to have any onboard processing whatsoever, and it can all be put on the PS5.
And I think that's fine.
But it doesn't. But when you take a step back, isn't that insane? Like it's just a display device, and it's $550. The Quest at least has processing power.
That's not insane at all. It's a very, very cheap TV that can do way more than a TV. So
yeah, I mean that's true. But I'm saying
the price is that crazy.
But think about compared to the Quest. The Quest does this with the PC, and it also has processing power. You think that would cut down on the price of the headset? Like you would think that if it's not going to have processing on board and it has to have the PlayStation, then you could do this thing for $350.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think there's two different ways that you can look at this. You can look at this value proposition versus the PSVR 1, or you can look at this value proposition versus the Quest. And I think, to Alfredo's point, the thing that bothers me about this is that I see this this price point, and like Alfredo said, the fact that it was on a blog post, and the fact that there's one first-party game at launch, and the launch lineup in general is pretty weak. Not to throw shade at Saints and Sinners, which I love, and the sequel I'm sure is going to be great, but it's also on Quest. It's not a PSVR 2 launch title, even though it's going to be on there.
But so Ben, let me just put a pin in that right there. So if you'd rather play Saints and Sinners 2 on the PlayStation VR, where you're stuck, you can't spin around.
I would too.
Really, y'all want the higher res like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is in part because I know personally the difference between the game on Quest and the game on PSVR and the game on PC. I worked on, cutting down the number of NPCs in a level so that it could fit on the Quest and still hit frame rate. So there's material difference between, it's not just visuals, between these games on a higher end platform and on a lower end platform.
Well, I guess it kind of depends on the person, because I just value so much in movement and like being able to walk around.
I mean, physically, for me,
and move and hop, and
I think you could still, honestly, I think you could still do that with the PSVR 2, because it's not what they've explained for PSVR 2. It's not as convoluted, basically, as PSVR 1 was, which was, you had to have that double cable, which was like super thick, all of that. And, it got in your way. PSVR 2 seems a lot more simple. It's just one basically HDMI cord. I can navigate around that if it's giving me those updated visuals, especially in that updated, that updated immersion. Because what they did display in, if you guys looked at any of the blog posts for like some of their exclusives, so they announced Cosmopolitan High, and Switchback VR, which is from the Dark Pictures anthology. Some of their exclusives for PSVR 2, they look good. They look like a significant bump from not only PSVR 1, but also from Quest. Because honestly, the Quest doesn't look that great, and that is one of the things that, I would love to see in my next VR system. That's what I want. I want updated visuals, because that's what's going to bring that next level immersion into the game for me. So what I've seen in some of these videos, it looks good. Like, it looks really good, and that's what I want. But the next thing I would look at is, is this a gameplay experience that I need in my life at that price point? And frankly, it's not, because these games don't look unique enough. They don't look, like Clems was saying, to be a gamer's experience.
By all accounts,
once in a lifetime kind of
by
thing.
all accounts, the leap forward here in graphical fidelity, namely due to the combination of foveated rendering and eye tracking, plus the power of the PS5 versus the power of the PS4. But the leap in visual fidelity here from PSVR 1 to PSVR 2 is going to be next level. It's going to be way more than you would expect. It's not an iterative thing. It's not the same as Quest 1 and Quest 2, where it's enhanced resolution, and that's more or less it. So I think what we're going to see here is a very direct comparison to the Switch versus the PS5 or a mid-level gaming PC. We're going to see, if you want to play higher end games, and if you want to play games that look good, you have to play them on a tethered device, or you have to set up a wireless solution on your PC. And if you want games that give you the most freedom of movement, just like the Switch does, we can take it anywhere, then you're going to have to sacrifice. That's always been the kind of value proposition between these two headsets. The question is, and this is the part where I feel like Sony's dropping the ball here, and if they want it to be aggressive, I think there's lots of dividends that could be paid here. I think the Quest 2 has proven that the VR market isn't niche, it's nascent. And part of this is because of COVID. You can throw it a lot on that. Part of this is because Meta aggressively priced the Quest and Quest 2, and obviously too aggressively, because they had to raise the price because it wasn't profitable.
And it doesn't rely on anything else.
But the Quest 2, as of June of this year, was outselling the Xbox Series X and S. Right, so
Crazy.
there's a real market here. It's not like we used to talk about when we were developing Saints and Sinners. We used to talk about the 6 to 10 million headsets that were in the wild, right? And how we had to capture, even if we captured 10% of that market, that's only 600,000 people that would be playing the game, right? So like, it's kind of talking about how difficult it is to be profitable in VR. It's not the case. It's not really the case anymore. When we talk about the headsets in the wild, we talk about PSVR 1, which is probably about 5 million headsets at this point. We talk about Quest and Quest 2, which is probably about 20 million headsets at this point. I'm just, spitballing numbers here. And then we talk about all the PC VR units, which probably total something like 1 million headsets in addition. So that's a small console ecosystem there, right, in terms of numbers. And yeah, it pales in comparison to the PS4, it pales in comparison to the Switch, but that's numbers. Like, that's a real market. So what I wanted to see from Sony here was a similar level of confidence, where they were really trying to aggressively price this thing to get people in the door, saying, okay, it's ready. It's ready for prime time now. VR is not a niche anymore. It's time for VR to blow up. The Quest has got the corner on the mobile VR market. We're going to get the corner on the console VR market. And, we'll leave the PC VR market to the Valves and the HTCs of the world, and then we would see a kind of distribution that is similar to where a certain critical mass of people are willing to deal with the cord in order to get the better visual fidelity, just like they are with the PS5. And a certain critical mass of people want the untethered experience, so they're going to go with the Quest. But everything is priced accordingly. I feel like this PSVR price in being $50 more than the console, which is, it's not that much, right? $50 is not that much. And when you compare this price to the PSVR 1, it's not that much more than the PSVR 1 was, and it's probably less when you adjust for inflation.
But
however, when you are comparing the Quest and the fact that it can also be tethered to the value proposition with PSVR 2, the difference maker there, which is typically Sony's first party, right? If I'm going to decide whether to get a gaming PC or a PS5, it's typically Sony's first party. It's totally missing from the picture. I mean, we have Horizon, Call of the Mountain, and then we've got very little else that's compelling. So this is not a confident statement, and I'm worried now that we are in a space where VR is not this thing that Sony is confident in anymore, and And if this price is unpalatable to people, and if it's not enough to get people through the door, I'm worried that we'll have another Vita situation on our hands here, where they just give up the market entirely.
Yeah, I can see that. And I mean, to kind of add on to that, where is our Astrobot sequel? Where's our Blood and Truth
Yeah.
sequel? Where's PlayStation Home? Like, so
Blood
many
and Truth-
missed opportunity.
Yeah,
Let me ask you this.
Exactly. I mean, the Blood and Truth developers, Sony London, are not working in VR anymore. So that's another signal,
Yeah.
How many units? How many PS4 units do you think were out there when the PSVR 1 came out?
A lot.
in
So-
excess
Hundreds.
of 50 to 60 million by the
50
time
to
VR
60 million,
yeah.
and they only sold 10%. So they sold 10% and bought a PSVR.
No. I mean, by the end of PS4's life cycle, PS4 had sold, or I mean, it's still selling, but it's at like 120 million right now, right?
Yeah, and then they only sold 5 million PSVRs. You think?
That's
or
I think
10?
they reported 4 million.
So
Something
4
like that.
million out of 120 million
Right.
PS5s.
But the thing is, they,
PS4s.
as of a couple weeks ago, they were so confident, right? They were saying, "Oh, we're gonna sell 2 million. We expect to sell 2 million," or that's
so
like their cap, basically.
that would be a much higher percentage than because I just looked it up. 21 million PS5s.
Yeah.
So the number, the
confident.
percentage wise, and you got to remember when the PSVR 1 came out, Quest didn't exist. It was not released yet. So it was the only like consumer like marketed VR system.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So that plays a lot into it too. Now you got this coming out that's more expensive than the console. There's a lot less PlayStation 5s out there than there was PlayStation 4s. There's a lot going against this. And like y'all said, there's no first party support besides this Call of the Wild game that looks like a pack-in demo. I mean,
here's one reason that to be hopeful, and I'm remembering now from maybe it was an investor call or something like that, where PlayStation was talking a bit about their VR strategy, and a lot of the strategy this time around is to do the Resident Evil 7 route, where you target games that are great, that have a following, that exist, that are being developed for flat screens, and you incentivize those developers to add VR modes or VR like ways to play the entire game in VR. We're seeing that with Resident Evil 8 is getting a full VR mode, and we know that there is a VR mode, how extensive it is for Resident Evil 4 Remake as well. So I think that's a way to attract people. If they have,
oh my god, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
the guy.
No, like I'm just thinking like Last of Us VR. I mean, oh goodness, because really like that's what Resident Evil 4. They went back. The Quest went back two generations. Like to do that, I feel like you have to go back to the PS4 generation or the PS3 generation and put the game in VR. Could you imagine a GTA 5 VR or Sony's first party like Uncharted, some kind of, I don't know if you can even play that in VR.
I think the Doom
maybe.
I think the Doom 3 port to PSVR, I don't know if it's on Quest, kind of proves that there's a way to do this with just about any first-person shooter, as long as there's the will. Yep. So you think about like all the best first-person shooters from the 7th generation, if they could get VR versions, and that's not going to happen, of course. But like, if some key ones could,
but that's my concern,
as well,
right?
actually.
But that's the concern. Is there the will from the developers, I guess? Because, I mean, in my eyes, if Sony's first person, like, you have to get Sony's first person in here. Like, do something more than Call of the Mountain, right? Maybe do a Last of Us VR. Do something with Naughty Dog. Do something with every property. Get some Ratchet and Clank in there. Get all your properties. Maybe not just Insomniac stuff. Who knows? But yeah, get things in there. But like, I feel like there has to be, if they're not going to allow things like, if they're not putting Half-Life Alyx on here, if they're not putting experiences that are already on PC, like there are a couple of VR experiences on PC now that would be a great get for Sony if they were able to put it on their PSVR too. That'd be great. And they don't even have that now yet. So if they're not doing that, then they have to be willing to invest a little bit in their property. And I don't know, before this came out, I was a little bit on the fence, right, as to whether I was going to get PSVR 2 because launch day I got PSVR 1. It was my first VR system, and it was a novelty. Now I have the Quest. I don't, and they're not showing me anything to say, hey, this is why you need the PSVR. We have all our studios all in, all of this. We're partnering with this. They don't have that, so I don't know. It's not looking good. Even though the tech is impressive, it's just the games and the apps don't seem to be there, and I don't know if they ever will be.
And are they even going to be even near as good as the Quest? I mean, you have so many options on the Quest. I mean, are they gonna bring some of those games over and stuff? Like Quest, you have Alt Space and all this different VR chat and all these cool different experiences. And I feel like I don't know how long it's going to be until PlayStation has a good robust library.
I agree in that PlayStation is definitely missing the social element in VR. Just a kind of place to be. I will say though to both of you, although actually, have either of you played like plugged your Quest in and done PC games through the Quest?
I have.
Like what kind of games have you played?
What did I plug it in for? That's a great question. It's been so long, honestly. I think I only did it for 1 or 2 games. What have you done it for, Cole?
I loaded the Steam VR, and I downloaded like there was an emulator VR game. You could play the N64 games.
Oh, okay, got it.
I did that. We were sitting in this little room, and then I did some other games, but my connection was messing up. It was just such a PC thing. Like it was just like not working smooth.
And I guess the fact that I can't even remember what I played means it wasn't impressive.
I wasn't impressed.
The point I was going to make is you guys should try Half-Life Alyx or
another
high-end VR game on PC. It's something that really takes advantage of the platform, right? And you play that, and then you go back to a native Quest game, and you're going to understand the difference. You're going to understand why the cord is important. It's very easy to see.
I think it is. I definitely think it is. I'm just like, but do I need the game? Like, what game do you have that will take advantage?
I agree. Ben, I agree. Like, I agree that the cord is important, but I think with VR, to me, I just feel like the freedom is more important. And like the ability to pack it up and take it places, and the ability to when I play, I pull the car out of the garage and I go into the garage and I'll play like Echo Arena and just run all over the garage. And I cannot do that if there is a cord, even no matter how long it is. I'm going to be falling and tripping and ripping things out of the wall. It's just the way I like to play VR. So I mean, a lot of people maybe do the standing experience and
No, whatever. I mean, I'm the exact opposite, and everyone's mileage is going to vary. But I worked in VR for years. I play VR sitting down.
Okay, well then, if that's the case, then you don't even need it to be wireless. Like that's it.
Right.
Well, here's the age-old question though. Ben has been waiting for this. Ben, are you going to buy the PSVR?
That is the age-old question
or not? Two.
I think what I said last time was if it's $400 or less, I'm definitely buying it. So now I'm in the I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to buy it or not. It depends on how good it is. It depends on how good some of these games are. But I'm not a definite anymore.
You know what I think the killer app is for this?
What?
Is say all three of us have a PSVR 2. If we could all sit in a virtual room and play pancake games, like our 3 avatars, if we could literally if we could play God of War Ragnarok, like Alfredo could play, and we're just sitting there watching him play, talk about it, and like pass the controller.
Do they even have that co-op
experience?
Can you do that? Well, you can on PSVR, right?
Yeah, you can do it, but there's no networked version of that where we can all be together playing the same game. So what Cole's talking about is like an inbuilt share play for PS4.
Yeah, that would be inbuilt share play, like simulate the couch co-op experience.
Right.
Bring that back and use VR. That would be incredible.
Yeah, you could imagine Sony would never do this because they're not cool enough. But you could imagine them basically using the share play tech where we can already do this thing. We can jump into a PlayStation call right now
Yep.
and I can share screen with you guys, so you guys
I
can
do it
see
all the
what
time.
I'm playing, and then I can press a button and I can give you control of it, and then you're streaming through my PS5. If I could do that by just handing you the virtual controller in the VR
That's
space,
so
right?
cool.
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. That's incredible.
But
Yeah,
will
so-
Sony be in the long game in order to like get a feature like that, like to implement a feature like
Dude,
that?
that's
I'm not
it.
so
Like
sure.
the social aspect, but that's what Facebook's doing. Like the social aspect. If we could all sit on a couch and just watch Netflix together and talk, like that's incredible. And it's so simple. Yet, I feel like all these like streaming rules it's messing it up. It's hard. It's hard to do. Hard to pull off.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah,
if I don't have a
so-
subscription and y'all do, whatever.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, so right now, I mean, the PSVR is gonna live or die based on people's interest in the games that are there, because those kind of extraneous experiences aren't really, and Sony has not indicated that they're interested in getting those on the platform.
Right.
So yeah, it's a question of whether the games are going to carry it, and this launch lineup I don't think is particularly strong. Again, no shade to Saints and Sinners,
No, dang.
but
Hopefully, we'll get more. Honestly, I mean, they released it in a blog post, so maybe they'll release more. Oh, look, we're having more games for the launch that will be available. But we'll see. I mean, I will say I am excited. The only game, or the game I'm excited for is Hello Neighbor VR. Looks pretty cool. Tentacular looks pretty cool. Everything else I already played. Zenith, good game, available on PC. So is Pistol Whip, all of that.
yeah. I will say, just to close it here, something that might have swayed me at this point, because I haven't played VR meaningfully in a long time, since Hitman 3 came out and the VR version there. Something that would have swayed me at this point is if backwards compatibility was, in it from the jump, and I could go back to my back catalog, because I've got a lot of VR games on PSVR that I haven't been touching, and if I could play them with the basic PS5 enhancements, more stable frame rate and better resolution, that would be a big argument for me as to why to buy the headset.
Wait, no.
Gotta
We know
wait
that
for
that's
the
I
the
had
games.
no idea. I thought we could play the backwards compatibility.
No,
Are
there's
no
you
backwards
kidding me?
compatibility.
This
Not-
thing sucks. This is terrible. That is terrible.
Yeah,
I can't believe that.
No backwards compatibility for you.
What the hell?
Well,
Y'all, this is not good.
on that note, that's
thing
the
sucks.
state of PSVR 2 right now.
He's not wrong.
Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah, we'll see what consumers think when the headset launches on February 22nd of next year.
I'll be in line to get it probably.
Speaking of PlayStation, the tit for tat with Microsoft and this Activision Blizzard deal continues. Although this time Phil Spencer has something to say. Phil Spencer this time says outright, quote, "As long as there is a PlayStation out there to ship to, our intent is that we continue to ship Call of Duty on PlayStation." I
This is just getting
almost didn't
ridiculous.
want to talk about this because it's just like this continued drip feed of nonsense while this deal like struggles to get past the goalposts. I think at this point where I'm at is this deal is going through. It's just about what concessions that Sony can squeeze from Microsoft, and the goalposts are moving bit by bit. Phil
Pretty
Spencer
good
says,
concession, I mean.
yeah,
This
Phil
one.
Spencer says we're going to honor the existing agreement. Then Phil Spencer says we have signed a new agreement for 3 additional years. Then Jim Ryan says that's not enough. Now Phil Spencer says as long as there's a PlayStation, there will be a Call of Duty on it. That's obviously not everything that PlayStation wants, because as long as Call of Duty is on Game Pass, that still poses a
Losing
big
sales.
problem for PlayStation. However, I mean, and honestly, like he doesn't say that Call of Duty will always be on PlayStation in this. He says that as long as there is a PlayStation, our intent is to ship
Yeah.
Call of Duty on there. Phil Spencer is ever the wordsmith, and so he's definitely he's trying to bob around the hard commitment here. But this is the game that's happening right now, where PlayStation tries to, Sony tries to squeeze concessions out of Xbox to make sure that this juggernaut of a franchise, which just sold $800 million in its first opening weekend for Modern Warfare 2, is still its future is still kind of, or its far flung future in 7 years is still kind of up in the air.
Yeah, I was just about to say. I mean, it's probably easy for Jim, for Phil Spencer in particular to say that. Okay, we'll keep it on PlayStation to make this more definitive than he's ever been. Okay, well, as long as there's a PlayStation, we expect it to be on PlayStation. Call of Duty after the massive weekend and record breaking that they just did that you just talked about, Ben. I think they crossed 1 billion as of like yesterday, basically.
Damn.
It sold $1 billion worth. The majority of that would have been on PlayStation. So it makes sense why they would say, oh, okay, yeah, if it's making money like that, we'll keep it on PlayStation.
I believe that is the second fastest selling game of all time.
Behind GTA 5. GTA 5 did it in 3 days. It was the fastest piece of media entertainment ever to do it, and I don't think it's been topped. It hasn't been topped since.
Well, you gotta wait for Modern Warfare 3 remake. Then it'll do. Maybe we'll see. But I mean, it's kind of crazy that because technically Modern Warfare 2 is a remake, right? Or is it not?
It's a totally new game.
There was another one.
But
it has the same title.
Yes, they rebooted. Yeah, they rebooted the Modern Warfare sub franchise with the one that came out in 2019. But that was not a remake of the original 2007 Modern Warfare. So it's still a continuation of the Modern Warfare series, but it got rebooted in 2019, and now this is the second iteration of the reboot.
Okay, cool. It's like God of War 2018. It's kind of like that.
It is. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I kind of believe him after seeing those numbers like today. I kind of believe him though this time, in that I feel like Phil Spencer will actually want to keep Game Pass, or even though Call of Duty will be on Game Pass, I think that it will actually be on PlayStation, because he actually does talk more about, oh, look what we've done with Minecraft in particular. Like that is on Game Pass now, right? And it's stayed on PlayStation like we've said it's been.
Slippery Phil, though. I did want to bring up the Minecraft comment, because Minecraft is not on PS5 and it has no native PS5 version.
That I did not know.
It has an Xbox One X version and has had an Xbox One X version since launch. So Minecraft does not get continued support on PlayStation platforms. The PS4 version is still getting updates, and the PS4 version is still there, but it's an inferior version. It's an objectively inferior version to the Xbox One X version, which there could be a somewhat, I don't know if they could have all the ray tracing. I don't know, I don't know what concessions they would have to make for PS5 versus One X, but it would be a roughly equivalent version if they brought it to PS5 with those features. There is no ongoing support for Minecraft on PlayStation. So he's talking out of both sides of his mouth right now.
I guess so.
We will continue shipping Call of Duty on PlayStation platforms as long as there are PlayStation platforms. Okay.
But maybe not the latest PlayStation platform.
If Call of Duty is always on Game Pass, and the comparison that you're bringing here with Minecraft is something that you're not even fully supporting on the competitor's platform, then there's still legitimate reason to be worried here. Of course, duh, that's why they're buying the company,
Right.
but it's about what is Sony ultimately going to get out of this?
Right. Wow, this is crazy. I mean, at the end of the day, it benefits Xbox, right? Xbox is a gamer centric, or they appear to be, the gamers centric place to be, basically, right? Best gaming value is Game Pass, hands down. So, I mean, I'm here for it. I feel like this kind of will promote, competitive. Let's see what PlayStation has in store that can actually match Call of Duty in the next couple of years. We know they have Destiny. They will help them come up with a great live service more war simulation type game that can maybe come at Call of Duty, and we'll see what happens. But it sounds like PlayStation is set for, at least for this iteration or this generation, for the PS5. When the PS6 starts coming around, they might be in a little bit of trouble, but hopefully by then, which will be like 5 years, 6 years from now, they'll have an answer to it. So I think they'll be fine. And I think Phil Spencer will keep his word.
I
Are
do
either of you guys regular Call of Duty players?
not. No, I hate Call of Duty. I played it.
I don't
I
hate
played
it. I just don't play it.
I played it a lot in college, but I mean, then I got out of it. I think that
You
Phil
don't believe
Spencer
in
will be. I think the next 4 or 5 years will probably be on PlayStation. But I think when it comes down to Game Pass versus whatever the future of video games, like Game Pass, which I've kind of been saying this the whole time, but Game Pass versus PlayStation Live, whatever we're going to have, maybe if there even is a next console, maybe we don't have another console. Maybe it's just streaming after that. I don't know.
Blasphemy.
But
We're having
when
a
that
console.
happens, it's all going to be a war. It's going to be a content war, and it's going to be back on, and that's where they're going to pull it. They're definitely not going to be putting this on PlayStation forever. I do not see that happening at all. Like 10 years from now, the Call of Duty will not be playable on. I would bet everything it will not be playable on whether it's a console or streaming service, whatever. It will not be playable.
Bet me your Powerball tickets.
I will. Hey, it's 11:30. See if I win.
All right. Well, yeah, that's the latest on the tit for tat with Call of Duty. So our next story is that EA and Marvel Entertainment have announced a multi-title collaboration to make adventure games. That is quite the press release title if I've ever seen one. So yeah, basically, the press release says that at least 3 action adventure games are part of this agreement that are going to be on consoles and PCs. They'll be set in their own original stories in the Marvel universe. The first title is the single-player, third-person action-adventure Iron Man game that Motive is developing, which I think we already knew about.
Yeah, we knew about that
for a while. So yeah, Marvel in the hands of EA. This to me, like I can barely be bothered to care about this until I actually see the games.
Did you ever play Guardians of the Galaxy, Ben?
I did. It was great.
You did? Okay, and you liked it. Okay, so are you worried? Knowing, I mean, you are worried.
No. Why be worried?
Okay. I was just wondering.
Motive is
for
a
me,
fine studio.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, Guardians of the Galaxy, for me, I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was.
Yeah.
So before that, I was like, oh, no way, this could be good. But they did a great job narratively. Now, gameplay-wise, yeah, they got a bit to go. But narratively, I think they have everything they need to succeed in terms of these games.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a different studio. This is a different publisher too. So it's kind of a different wheelhouse, and so I'm comparing this more to like EA's handling of Star Wars, which was, I think, generally abysmal. I really loved Battlefront 2. I played it a lot, and I like the first Battlefront 2, Battlefront as well. So both of the DICE games, but they were not good. And Jedi Fallen Order was basically the only great game that the deal produced. Motive made another Star Wars game, Star Wars Squadrons, that was pretty good as well. But that was it in the 10-year deal.
But the good sign is that all of the good games were single player driven games, which is what these games are supposed to be as well.
That's true. Does it say single player?
I believe so. Yeah, single. Oh, actually, it only says that
the Iron Man game. The Iron Man game is single player.
You're right.
So it says 3 new action adventure games. So we don't necessarily know that these are going to be single player games. And if, depends on what studios are handling them. That can indicate different things to us. I think, action adventure, we could probably guess here what studios are capable of doing action adventure games that EA has under its wing. I think Respawn is an obvious choice, although they're pretty busy at this point, but I can imagine them scaling up even further than they have to add a new team there. I think DICE, DICE LA, which was rebranded at some point, and that Vince Zampella, the head of Respawn, is also responsible for DICE LA. He took over charge of the studio after Battlefield 2042, I think it was. So that studio could be ramping up with one of these games.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like I am almost confident that all of these games are going to be single player. and it's because of the fail. I think it's, well, we know they're partnering up with Marvel, right? Marvel got burned so hard by Avengers. So I think Marvel is very hesitant to be like, okay, we're going to do another like multiplayer game when Avengers went so bad. In conjunction with that, EA hasn't really had any multiplayer hits as well. So I don't think Marvel would give them, hey, go ahead, do enough. We believe in you, when you have no track record of having great multiplayer games in the first place, and we just got burned. I'm pretty sure, I would make a bet that all three of these will be single player action adventure games. And I think if that is the case, then these will be good games. I think they'll be great narrative games. I think that they can be secretly hits, and I think they can help bring EA back to a great studio, just like Fallen Order proved that, oh, EA like actually cares about games now. I feel like this could be a turning point for both Marvel and EA in terms of their games.
Cool. Any thoughts on these games?
I agree with Alfredo. I'm going to take the positive route. I think I want to see them. But yeah, that sounds what Alfredo, I second exactly what Alfredo said.
I do have a question for you guys. What do you guys think are the two other properties that they're going to be working on? If you had to take wild guesses.
Well, it isn't Spider-Man. It isn't Wolverine. It's probably not Guardians of the Galaxy. It's probably not Avengers.
Probably not X-Men, unfortunately.
I
wish
see
it
an
was.
X-Men
God,
game.
that would
I
be
wish
awesome.
it was.
Gosh,
But that would be multiplayer, right? It would be multiplayer, and I think they're going to stay away from that.
I think they're careful to say that. I mean, I think the press release is worded in such a way that I don't think we can assume that they're single player games. Just to counter what you were saying earlier. And even though, you're right that a lot of EA's multiplayer focused Star Wars output was not particularly well received, Battlefront 1 and 2 did crazy numbers. I mean, they did great sales wise. So yeah, I'm not totally convinced that they wouldn't go for another multiplayer try. And also, did Marvel really get burned with Avengers, or did Square Enix get burned with Avengers? Because most people said the story was fine.
Well, it was
so
rough.
I think,
It was rough. Okay,
Yeah, okay.
I played it.
I think I know what the other property, what one of the properties is going to be.
What?
I think it's going to be Thor.
Really?
Yeah, I think that they're going to see how good God of War is doing, and they'll kind of do a game similar to that with
That's
Thor.
interesting.
Oh God!
I mean, think about how
I don't want to play that.
it just seems like an easy.
After God of
Seems
War.
like an easy answer.
It does.
And
but
think about
the
how
comparisons-
they're still pushing the Thor movies too.
Yeah,
Like
that's
Thor is
true.
really big still in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I think X-Men would be a great choice. I think
that
maybe
would be
Fantastic
awesome.
Four would be
That'd
a
be
good
the
choice
best.
too.
Oh,
That'd be so.
Fantastic Four. I think they'll do.
So are you
Fantastic
talking about multiplayer games then? Because
Not
X-Men-
necessarily. I think especially the Fantastic Four one could be a
They could do
Guardians
single
type
player.
game.
Yeah.
Although
Yeah.
you would, I think all those characters would need to be playable. I don't think.
Picture an X-Men style game where you have the mansion and you can go back to the mansion and explore and pick
I've
different
been wanting
characters.
an X-Men game so badly. I don't think EA is the one to do it though.
Yeah,
I-
it would be very cool though.
Yeah, I'm gonna place my money on. I think they might do a Black Widow like spy game. I could see it.
Maybe.
That could
That's
be
what
cool.
I would hope
Well,
for.
We know there's an Iron Man game in the works, so we can keep our fingers crossed for that one coming from Motive. Motive's also doing the Dead Space remake, aren't they? So this is what they're working on
Yes,
next
they
after
are.
Dead Space.
Yep.
Interesting. That's EA and Marvel's collaboration. One of the studios under Square Enix, another Marvel collaborator, that was sold to Embracer Group alongside Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal is Square Enix Montreal, that was rebranded to Studio Anoma quickly after the sale to Embracer. Square Enix Montreal is known for the Go games, Hitman Go, Lara Croft Go, Deus Ex Go, so mostly a mobile-centric studio. They were unfortunately closed after the rebranding because it seems Embracer wants to focus this kind of Square Enix purchases into console only. It wasn't just a development studio, though. As far as I understand, Square Enix Montreal had a pretty sizable QA unit that would do QA for other Square
studios.
Enix games, such as Deus Ex for Eidos Montreal and potentially even Avengers for Crystal Dynamics. So it's a pretty big. It's a 200-person studio that was affected. Yeah, what do we think about this kind of Square, or rather Embracer, not seeming to understand what to do with the studio?
It's kind of weird. It's weird in that they just rebranded them, particularly
Right.
literally a month ago, and
Right.
said, "Oh, you're gonna be called Anoma Studios this time." And we knew they were working on, I think it was like a Stranger Things ish type of game, basically. But I think, like Ben said, it was going to be still mobile focused. So, yeah, it's weird that this happened and right after they were rebranded, but there is a little bit of a bright side in that I know that some of the employees were basically instead of being completely let go, they were basically transferred to Eidos Montreal in particular. So that's the bright side of things. I never played personally any of the Go games, so I never had any sort of attachment to them. I don't even know how good they were. I think they
They're
were
good.
critically.
Yeah, they're good. They're good puzzle
received
games.
well. Okay, great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I never played them, but because I'm not much of a mobile game person, but it's not a great sign when Embracer Group takes hold of all of these different places and then is like, oh, yeah, we actually don't know what we're doing with this, so let's just shuffle some people around. And I guess that's inevitable with an acquisition, though. Like, they're going to have some shutdowns, they're going to be shuffling people around. It's just not a really great sign when they literally rebranded them a month ago and then they decided to do this, because the acquisition happened months ago, back in like August, I believe, right? Like 3 months ago or 2 months ago or something.
Yeah, it was a while back. I have to imagine. This is total speculation, but I have to imagine that some of this was the studio's talent. I guess just an analysis of the studio talent and realizing that if they wanted to pivot the studio to PC and console games, it would be with significant expense, expense enough to justify shutting down the studio. We know a little bit more about the entire change in strategy here with the other elements of the acquisition, especially Eidos Montreal. Jason Schreier reported this news initially for Bloomberg, and he said on his Twitter thread, some Anoma staff will be moved to Eidos Montreal. Eidos Montreal was actually the studio that was working on the Stranger Things inspired game, and they canceled that game as part of this move. And Eidos is also working on a new IP that was recently rescoped, a new Deus Ex game that is in very, very early stages, which makes sense. They never finished the trilogy. It was obvious that Mankind Divided and Human Revolution were the first two parts of a trilogy or more. Mankind Divided ends on a very strange note. It's obviously the middle chapter. So it would make sense that they would want to get back at that. I also heard from, I think it was I can't remember who it was that said this, but there was rumblings that people at Eidos were talking about how they wanted to take a bite at the apple with kind of the cyberpunk open world genre and try to do cyberpunk better than cyberpunk.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting talk. I of course love Deus Ex, and I would love as many Deus Ex games as they can possibly give me.
Yeah, so, I always compared them to each other.
Yeah, so
even though they're very different, but
I'm very happy that a new Deus Ex is spinning up. Although that's obviously very early. I think it was signaled in a way that Embracer was interested in those legacy IP, Legacy of Kain, Tomb Raider, and Deus Ex as part of this acquisition. It wasn't just about the studio talent. So yeah, new Deus Ex and Eidos Montreal is also working on co-dev partnerships with Xbox, including Fable, which was mentioned by name.
and Perfect Dark.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, Crystal Dynamics is in particular.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. So Crystal was working on. Wow. Okay. So they were farming out both Crystal and
Yep.
IDOS.
They got them all.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Cool. Yeah. So I hope that a lot of talent can be absorbed by IDOS Montreal, but I have a feeling it's going to be a select few. So condolences to everybody who was affected in the layoff, and it just kind of sucks.
Yep.
Cole, anything to say on the closure of Anoma or any of this other news?
I think we're about to see a lot of this going into the next 6 months. Like just cutting costs and expenses, and we've been seeing it in tech for a few months now, with money, capital being more expensive to borrow, and like people are going to start cutting the fat off a lot of the acquisition. And this acquisition probably took them like 6 months. It was probably back when money was more free, and now they've completed the deal, and they're like, okay, we got to kind of cut back,
Yeah. I think you're right.
We're going to see a lot of gaming.
Beginning of a wave, unfortunately.
And tech in general, yeah.
Yeah. Well, on that downer of a note, this has been the Dukes of Gaming. Thank you, everybody, very much for joining us. We stream on Twitch and on YouTube, usually on Sunday evenings at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. And we post to all of the podcast services wherever you listen. And we thank you very much for joining us. And until next time, I bid thee farewell.
Sonic Frontiers, let's go.